Alright, so I am back, and today we're going to be starting a 4 to 5, kind of depends on how things go, length videos, or 4 or 5 videos in a row, of how are they holding up. And we're going to start off with MP Hot Rodimus, whatever you want to call him. It's Hot Rod. Rodimus Prime. This is the Hasbro version. I don't have the Takara version. I thought about buying one just to do a video on it here, but yeah, no. I just don't want to spend that kind of money on this. But yeah, so here he is in his robot mode. This is, like I said, the Hasbro version, and I always felt like this one was better as Hot Rod than it is Rodimus, just because the overall design just kind of plays off more of a Hot Rod vibe. And the face sculpt, you know, which was always funky because you can open this up, like this is the Rodimus face, and you can open this up and pull out the Hot Rod face. Come on. Comes out, but of course it's not going to work for me today. So yeah, we're just going to leave him as Rodimus, I guess, or not. I hate this thing. Like the figure's fine, I guess, but there's a lot of this thing shows its age really badly. It is a really bad design on a lot of levels. And as you can see, now my face won't come back out. Alright, let's see if this will at least... Nope. Oh dear God, what have I done? Yeah, this is a really poor design on the... Oh my God. On Hasbro's part, or Takara's part. This thing has always been just plagued with issues. Yeah, so this is great. I can't get the head back in because the faceplate in the back slid all the way in. So, let's see, is there a way I can wedge it out? There we go. Because this red piece here has to go underneath this faceplate, and then the faceplate has to go behind the other faceplate. And it's such a chore. I don't know why they decided to do it like that. And oh my God. Why? Does this go behind there now? Not really. There we go. Alright, so yeah. He's got the Hot Rod face and then the Rodimus face, and I always thought the Rodimus face was better than the Hot Rod face was better than the Rodimus. It is a clunky disaster. That is the best way to describe this figure. You know, it was pretty cool looking when it first came out, and it's still, you know, on the shelf, it still looks pretty decent. But it's got so many problems. So to start off, the ratchets on the knees, especially up at the top, are super, super, super tight. That's why a while back, a lot of third-party companies, or at least a few, were releasing die-cast pieces to replace the plastic, because the plastic will shear off because of the way it's built. It's so tight that, you know, at some point most people broke theirs. Another problem that a lot of people had is the hips here The spring was loaded too tight. I think that was more of the Takara version and not the Hasbro version. But it was so tight that a lot of people legs or thighs would explode after too much use. And then a lot of the shoulders, because of the springs were being too tight on all versions, will eventually explode. So it is just riddled with like time bomb QC issues. As you can see, I'm also having a hard time keeping them into a mode because things just keep coming on tab because it's just not very well built either. It never was. So let's talk about posability. Head is on a ball joint in the back there, so you get the left and right, a little up, a little down, and then the neck also has a hinge in there, so you get a little bit more range of motion in there. The tiniest bit of butterfly joint in the shoulders, and then ratcheted around. Friction out to the side. Thigh swivel. Or bicep swivel, thigh swivel. Bends at the elbow. This little piece here kind of gets in the way of articulation. It just kind of covers up the joint, which it's like on the one hand I appreciate because it makes it look better, but you also don't get a lot out of it. Wrist swivels, hinges in and out. Thumb is on a ball peg, and then each finger, or the fingers are all one piece really, or two pieces I guess. And there's a hinge here and here. Stay tabbed in. Waist swivel. It's kind of set a little to the back, so when you do it, it just looks unnatural. Like if you do it just a tiniest bit, it looks fine, but when you go to a more extreme, it just looks so awkward. It's not a piece I would recommend. Then the skirting moves out of the way, so your hips go out to there, and then there's a little extra hinge in here to like get his legs a little bit lower so he stands a little bit taller for Rodimus mode. It's a case of where they just tried to engineer too much into the figure, and they should have just gone with one or the other, not try to do both. Thigh swivel. We already talked about the knees. There is a double jointed knee here. The bottom one moves a little bit freer. The top one, that's super tight. If you don't need to move it, don't move it. Rocker and a tilt for the feet. Now this version came with also came with the Target Master, which I've sold. I don't really care for the Target Master. I've sold off all my Target Masters, actually. The backpack does not like to stay tabbed in, and it is not the worst we've seen, but also not the greatest. He also comes with a pair of guns. Just got the handle here. We can plug them into the hand. Holds them just fine. And then you can take them and you push this one in, and it becomes a longer rifle, which he can also hold. Yeah. So years ago, I don't know how many it was now, but not too long ago, Takara did announce that they were doing a reissue of this guy, and I want to say it was like 3 years ago or so. And people like got excited, like, oh, are we going to get it with better paint? Or are we going to get it with the fixes? And Takara's like, no, it's just going to be the same figure. So yeah. Oh, good gravy. Let's do a size comparison. Here he is with MP44. So you can see how he stacks up with that. So, size-wise, he's about right. Feel-wise, he's probably he's really dated. Like, I mean, look-wise, it's like, oh, from a distance, it's like, oh, that's a pretty good, looking figure. But the problem is again, it's clunky. It's super clunky. It's not fun to mess with. Just manipulating it for the sake of this video is frustrating. It doesn't work the way you want it to work. It doesn't move the way you want it to work. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't... It's not a great feeling figure. I mean, there's no other ways to say it. It's just, he does have a little matrix in there too, by the way, which is too small for his hands. He can't actually hold this, and that's kind of hilarious. He could hold the original MP01 matrix, I believe, which then got repurposed into MP10's matrix, I think. But he doesn't hold up very well. He's got time bombs in the shoulders, the thighs, the hips. Some people are having a problem with the feet, the knees for sure. The gun just feels like it's just really poorly built because of the way, because of its gimmicks. It's like, it would have been better had they just been like, you know what? We're going to make a hot rod toy. Or we're going to make a Rodimus toy. Like, they really needed to just zone in on one and focus on the one. You saw the problem I was having with the face, and that is a typical problem with this figure. It is not a good figure. It has not aged well. It is time for a new Rodimus, I think. We've got a few hot rods that have come in throughout the years, but only 2 Rodimuses, really. And well, 3 Rodimuses, and one was the Takara version of this, and the other one's this one. And then there was the DX9 one. But I don't think this is a good recommend for your collection. I don't think that whatever price it's at right now is going to be worth it, because you're not going to get replacement parts for it. So like, even if you can find it on like a super heavy discount mint in box from eBay for like $60, the chances of it actually surviving very long are it's a crapshoot. Like, you don't know if it's going to break, and if you don't have a retailer that you can go out and contact and be like, hey, can I get a replacement shoulder for this guy? It's not like Hasbro's making the parts anymore. I mean, this thing is years and years old. And that's the point of these videos. Like, are they worth it after all of these years? And the answer to this one is no. It's not. I cannot recommend this figure. I think, you know, on the surface, it looks good. But if you're in the market to get a Rodimus Prime, stay clear of this one and stay clear of the Takara one, because the Takara one is actually worse. So there's 2 versions of the Takara one. So the way it plays out, you had the first version, which had a lot more quality control issues, if you could believe that. Pieces in the back snapping off, these leg panels, which I think it's these guys here, yeah. This one here. So this one's now on a peg that, like, if you put too much pressure on it, it'll untab, and then you're able to tab back in. The original one did not have that. It would just break off and you're done. So that was a huge problem. Like almost every one of them broke. So, and then this came out for Hasbro, and then after this came out, Takara took the tweaks that Hasbro did and put it into a version 2. But there's no real way to determine which one is which at this point. So if you're on eBay, you're like, oh, here's the Takara version. It's got a little bit better paint and, better design. You don't know if it's going to be the one that's going to break even easier than the one that you have. This one, and this one has a tendency of breaking. I'm surprised this one has lasted as long as it has. But I've had them in the past where parts of them have broken off, especially, I've actually had the spoiler break off on a lot of mine because this is just a little pin joint in there. And it's just like surprising that like this big piece, I think no, it's not die cast, I don't think, but something so big would be held on by something so small. And then some of these panels I've had breaking off. I don't think I've actually had any of the joints explode, but maybe a hip, I think, actually. But I've thrown some of these things away because of QC issues. So, it's not my first MP Rodimus Prime figure, and it may not be my last if it breaks. But it's just, I can't recommend it. I don't. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 is my current score for this guy. It doesn't hold up very well. It's just not a good, long-lasting figure.